What's up, everybody? It's your boy Toxeyboyo coming to you on the second channel. We're taking a break from reaction content for just a little while. We're going to talk about some stuff that I don't really think fits super well on the main channel. I don't really talk about like news and like currently developing stuff very often, at least not anymore. So why not toss it over here and try to build this up a little bit? Speaking of building things up, if you are new here, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe, leave a like, and a comment below. But only like the video if you actually do like the video. I don't necessarily want you to just go down there just because, but, you know, it would be helpful. Anyway, we're here today to talk about the Black Panther game that was being developed by Cliffhanger Games, a subsidiary of EA. That was supposed to come out, I don't know. We actually don't know when it was supposed to come out, but it was just recently canceled. And not only that, Cliffhanger Games was shuttered. You know, EA just, that's their favorite thing to do, you know, just take a company that they own or that they run and just close its doors. Because, and the thing about Cliffhanger Games is that, like, they don't, it's not like they had any other IPs they could rely on. Like, they were created internally to work on the Black Panther game. So I'm sure that the employees there will either get folded into BioWare or Motive or something. Maybe they'll end up at DICE. I really have no idea. Respawn, I mean, EA's got plenty of companies still in-house, but it's a shame because I was really looking forward to that Black Panther game, and like, I just wanted to talk about really the state of superhero games in general, and just, you know, AAA gaming is in such a weird spot right now, but it's really unfortunate that they couldn't get this Black Panther game off the ground, because what do we have? You know, you look at the last few years of Marvel and DC games, you've got the Insomniac Spider-Man trilogy, which have been well received. They've been really popular, and those have been like the best, most consistently well-performing games about a superhero to come out in the last few years. But then you have Marvel's Avengers by that same token, which was this live service game, and it flopped so hard that it didn't even last 3 years. You also have Guardians of the Galaxy, which was a much better game than Marvel's Avengers, but it was also Square Enix, and people were so burnt from Avengers that they didn't want to play another Marvel Square Enix game. You know, there's the Wolverine game by Insomniac that was announced about 4 years ago, and they have subsequently said nothing. Now, that's a special circumstance, right? Because there was a huge ransomware attack on Insomniac in 2023 after Spider-Man 2 came out, and a lot of things were leaked, and, you know, I'm sure that has a huge impact on the release of the game. I mean, you look at GTA 6, that got leaked about 3 years ago, and, you know, it got delayed hugely because of that. But I'm sure the same thing's happening over with the Wolverine game. I'm sure that game will come out. I'm just a little nervous because, for as much as I like the Spider-Man games, they're really weak on plot and character. The characters are really, really shallow and basic in those games, and the stories are never really, like, I don't know, just always leaves a lot to be desired. And while they are a lot of fun to play, like, nothing beats just hopping in Spider-Man 2 and swinging around the city and web winging and stuff like that. But I don't think, based on, you know, what I know from Spider-Man and Spyro and Ratchet and Sunset Overdrive, I don't think that they're the right guys for Wolverine. I don't like the idea of, like, giving 2 of the 3 biggest Marvel heroes to the same company, you know? That's just, I don't want that kind of homogenization from those characters. I would have wanted, like, Capcom, or specifically the Devil May Cry Capcom team, or like Platinum Games or somebody to handle Wolverine, but hey, you know. And you look over at DC, and, you know, Gotham Knights came out, nobody really played it. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League came out and died on arrival. There was never a time that game was popular. And apart from some DC characters popping up in Mortal Kombat games, you've got a Wonder Woman game that was also announced many years ago in 2021 that was also canceled by by Warner Brothers. And the crazy thing about Wonder Woman getting canceled is that it's very similar to the Black Panther situation, where the studio that was working on it has been shuttered. Monolith Games. They, if in case you're wondering, they made Shadow of Mordor. Warner Brothers has shut down the company that made Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. I almost said Wardor. And I feel like that's actually insane. I can't even come up with a single way to justify that, because now you're never going to get your Shadow of Mordor 3. Because they don't even want to make games about Middle-earth anymore. They only want to do Mortal Kombat, Batman, Harry Potter, and Game of Thrones. So, no more Lord of the Rings content. It's like, is that not ridiculous to you guys? But yeah, and then, what was it? Batman Arkham Shadow, the VR game, came out. People seem to like it, I guess, but on the horizon, there's nothing. At least Marvel, Marvel Rivals is a huge deal, and it kind of shows you that, if you strike at the right time, you can corner this huge market, and you can actually have a really successful live service game, because it's a hero shooter. And at the time that it came out, its only competition was Overwatch 2, and Activision has been sabotaging Overwatch 2 since it was still Overwatch 1. So they really came in at the perfect time, and they've just stolen the entire audience. But they've got like a side-scrolling beat-em-up coming out later. There's still that, Marvel 1943 Hydra game with Captain America and Black Panther, which is a different Black Panther. And then, of course, that Wolverine game is still supposed to be coming out, and we can assume there's going to be a Spider-Man 3, because the last game sold like hotcakes. And beyond that, we don't really know. See, things are kind of different between Marvel and DC when it comes to video games. Like, Marvel has more avenues that they've explored. Like, they'll do a live service, online type of game like Avengers, or they'll do a hero shooter like Rivals, or they'll do a fighting game like MVC, or they'll do this open world action adventure RPG type game like Spider-Man, or they'll do a beat 'em up. They're willing to experiment a lot more, or they'll do like a really linear level based type game with progression like Guardians of the Galaxy. Warner doesn't really do that anymore. I mean, like, Injustice 2 came out 8 years ago, and yes, that's the exact same year that the last Marvel vs. Capcom game came out, but all of those games have been re-released at least, You can go back and play Marvel vs. Capcom 1. And that kind of insane. You can play X-Men vs. Street Fighter, There's also a difference in the fact that, like, any DC video game that comes out is going to be by a Warner Brothers studio. It's going to be by Monolith, or Rocksteady, or NetherRealm, or Traveler's Tales, or something like that. Marvel, Disney doesn't really have that. They don't have really very many in-house developers. So it could be Crystal Dynamics. It could be Platinum Games. It could be Atlas. It could be Insomniac. It could be whoever. Ubisoft, Please God, no, don't do that. So there is at least a light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to the Black Panther game, because of the fact that it could just go to a different studio now. They'd have to start all the way over. They're not going to be able to use stuff from the Cliffhanger build. But it could just land in another studio, and then in 5 more years, we get something. It's not necessarily the end of the world, but it sure feels like it. Because you have to wonder, why even cancel this game? And by the way, if you've made it to this point, we're going to be talking about Black Panther pretty heavily from now on for the rest of the video. If you want to go down to the comments and say the word woke, or white, or black, anything other than Panther, if you want to start an argument, make it a political thing, any of that, you're getting banned. I'm not in the mood for it. This is not a political discussion. But anytime Black Panther's name comes up, it becomes one really quickly. So watch yourself, okay? Now, Black Panther is one of Marvel's most culturally relevant characters in the entire zeitgeist right now. There are more people reading his comics, more people enjoying the character than in the 40 years prior. The two Black Panther movies alone grossed over $2 billion combined. And every movie that T'Challa was in the MCU, Captain America Civil War, Black Panther, Infinity War, and Endgame, all grossed over $1 billion each. Black Panther is huge. There's a reason that when Chadwick Boseman passed away in 2020, that it felt like the world stopped. There's a reason that the tweet announcing his death was the most popular tweet of all time. Black Panther has touched a lot of people's hearts. A lot of people. Right now, he needs a video game. Marvel needs to be willing to make games about more characters. Spider-Man is a no-brainer. He's been getting video games for 50 fucking years. Cool. Over at DC, Batman's been getting games for decades. I get that. But similarly to Wonder Woman, Black Panther is a character who is so wildly popular that it's shocking that we haven't figured out how to get him a game. Yes, Marvel 1943 so far is still coming out, but it's coming out next year and there's still no gameplay to speak of whatsoever, so we'll see. But I don't understand how... Like, okay, we've got a Blade game coming out by Arcane over at Bethesda. So far. And chances are that's going to be a big game for Xbox and for PC. It'll probably get a PlayStation release later on. But I'm looking forward to that. If it's not first person. However, that's pretty much all Arcane does. You know, Dishonored, Deathloop, Prey. That's what they do, is first person games. I just feel like that kind of defeats the purpose of playing as a superhero if I can't look at the hero that I'm playing as. But that's good. That's good that we're getting a studio like Arcane working on a game for a character like Blade. Alternatively, you can't figure out a Black Panther game. We don't even know what the problem was, right? Maybe they were getting way over budget, like the Deadpool game. Or maybe they were just moving too slowly. Or maybe EA just really and truly do believe that single-player games are dead. And that spells doom for another Marvel game that they are publishing. Motive's Iron Man game. Yeah, you may have forgotten, but shortly around, or either shortly after or right around the time that the Dead Space remake came out about 2 years ago, EA Motive announced that they were working on an Iron Man game. After playing the Dead Space remake, I'm really looking forward to that. I think that could be a great game. However, this is EA we're talking about. And they still haven't said anything official about a Dead Space 2 remake, because according to sources that I've read, Dead Space 2023 underperformed. Now, I'm going to pull up real quick the sales figures for that game, because I just don't think that that makes any sense. But Dead Space 2023 sold over 2 million copies, viewed as a slight underperformance, leading to reports that a Dead Space 2 remake was shelved. That's insane. And I get it, right? Games have huge budgets now. And it's the same thing that's happening in Hollywood. The more you spend on a product, the more you have to sell in order to recoup that cost. So, we don't exactly know what the budget for that game was, but maybe EA wanted to sell 5 million copies. That's not realistic for a horror game that's not Resident Evil. And that's the thing that EA doesn't understand. Single player games aren't dead. You just have to make them in a smart way. You know, you can't spend $100 million developing a Dead Space game and expect to make all that money back. Dead Space was never that popular. Let's see what the original version of the game sold. The original game sold sold 1 million copies. So this game sold better than the original, but it was still deemed an underperformance by EA. That's why I'm scared for the Iron Man game. And that's why I'm blown away that for a character like Black Panther, they just don't understand what people want. It's because what are we supposed to look forward to? Just Spider-Man games pretty much forever? You know? Where's a Daredevil game? Where's a game about Nova? Or a new Punisher game? That could be a lot of fun and should be really easy to make. There are so many characters, especially within Marvel, that deserve games after all this time. Black Panther being pretty close to the top of that list. I'd love another game about the Hulk. That would be great too. But it's just really depressing because you create this studio for the purpose of making this game. You get all these people hyped for it. You say nothing about it for 2 years, and then it's gone. In favor of what? That's like the most upsetting part about announcements like this, is they never give a reason, and they never say what's coming next or what to look forward to in place of this. So, the game is just gone. I'm sorry. I'm willing to bet that a game about Black Panther that's good, don't make it open world. Don't give it this huge, crazy inflated budget. Make it a level-based, linear, character action game that's focused on combat. Like an Arkham Asylum type game, but not necessarily in an environment that's quite that small, but just something that's focused and linear. That, I think, is what works best for Black Panther, because what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do to get around Wakanda? That's why I don't want the Wolverine game to be open world. I'm kind of all over the place right now. I don't want the Wolverine game to be open world because, like, he's not a character that has a super dynamic way of getting around. Batman has the Batmobile and he glides. Spider-Man swings. Superman flies. The Flash runs. But Wolverine just has a motorcycle sometimes. I don't want to just run around this huge world. I also don't want to just drive around it on a motorcycle. Because then you're damn near playing Grand Theft Auto, you know? Black Panther, like by that same token, does not really have a signature way that he gets around. Yes, he's got a plane, but like, how often do you see, you know, Black Panther pull up to battle in his plane? Not very often, right? So I think the best thing to do is to just not do that. However, it doesn't seem like they're gonna do anything. It's just such a bad omen. Characters as popular as Black Panther and Wonder Woman can't get games. And you want me to believe that this Blade game is still coming out? You want me to believe that this Iron Man game is still coming out? No. They're going to continue to focus on pretty much strictly Spider-Man and maybe Wolverine if that game does come out and it does well. I'm sure it will do well. He's a very popular character, but that doesn't always mean anything. I don't know what there is to look forward to when it comes to superhero games. Warner won't make a game about the Flash or Superman or really anybody but Batman now. And Marvel doesn't seem to know what the hell they want to do. I do admire the different routes that they're going in. Obviously, it's nice to have games like Guardians of the Galaxy and Marvel Rivals and Spider-Man all be so different from each other but still represent the Marvel brand, because it shows the diversity in games you can make about these characters. But the problem is you have to actually make those games, and they just don't seem to want to do that anymore. And I just find that really heartbreaking. But now it's time to pass the question off to you guys. What do you think about the cancellation of the Black Panther game? Do you think that something good could come out of it? Do you also worry about other games that are in development for Marvel characters? What do you think is the end game for this situation here? No pun intended. Whatever it is, whatever you think, please do comment below and educate me. And as always, if you want more videos, go ahead and click somewhere on this end screen and it'll take you to one of them. I'll see you later.